The GT 1030 and GTX 1050 Ti are two of the most popular options right now for people who want to buy new budget graphics cards. They've been out for a while, but how are they performing in 2018? But first, Hooded Dutchman says, I'd like to see some more intense games in your reviews like this. Battlefield 1 for example, and maybe Prey. Fortnite and Csgo aren't really intense at all. Done. Hey, welcome to Zach's Tech Turf. Today we're going to be pitting the GTX 1050 Ti versus the GT 1030 in some 2018 budget GPU showdown, but with some intense games and not just Fortnite and CSGO. If you're new here, then now would be a great time to subscribe to the channel if you want to see more benchmarking, PC building, and PC gaming videos. But if you are already subscribed, then hit that notification bell down below, that way you get notified every time I upload a new video. Alright, now let's get into it. First up, the reason why I picked these two cards today is because I know a lot of my viewers are either interested or even already own one of these cards. Buying graphics cards here in 2018 is a complete mess, as I'm sure you're already aware of, but every now and then you can snipe up some good deals on these cards. I personally think it's a great idea to buy one of these budget GPUs and wait until the next generation of cards comes out, and hopefully these prices stabilize later this year. Make sure you watch my top 10 tips to save money when building a new gaming PC video, and that way you'll be able to save money on other parts so you have more money to spend on a graphics card. So the first card we're looking at today is the GT 1030, specifically this MSI 2GB version. I fully benchmarked this card in a very budget build, and that video proved that this card is perfect for people upgrading to one of those basic Dell or HP desktops that they might already have lying around the house. The second card is the GTX 1050 Ti, which used to be a killer price to performance GPU, but obviously it's pretty hard to find at a great price here in 2018. Back when the prices were always at MSRP, the decision was way easier. You could go with the GT 1030 if you wanted to spend around $70, and if you wanted to spend around double that amount of money, you could get the GTX 1050 Ti. Now the choice isn't nearly as easy. If you want to spend close to $200, then you still can get the GTX 1050 Ti, but if you want to spend like $100 and just get a budget graphics card to ride out the GPU apocalypse, then maybe you only need the GT 1030. Our testing rig for the day is going to be the little test bench that I've been using a lot lately. It's rocking an i7 4790K, which boosts up to 4.4 GHz, 16 GB of RAM, an MSI Gaming 5 motherboard, and the games are installed on a Samsung 840 EVO SSD. Quick disclaimer, that test bench is a little outdated, but I think that's a good thing. Chances are if you're in the market for some budget GPUs, then you're not going to want to see me benchmark them in something like an 8700K. And also, for these future benchmarks that you're about to see, these are the settings that I personally would game at, as I always favor hitting 60 FPS over looking a little pretty, so just know that you can adjust the settings to fit your needs. First up, we tested Battlefield 1 as requested, and the GT 1030 was able to pull 58 frames per second with 1080p low settings, while the 1050 Ti could handle 1080p medium and put out 71 frames per second. Next up was CSGO, and for this one I kept both cards set to 1080p in high settings with no anti-aliasing. I don't really think anyone plays CSGO above these settings. The GT 1030 was pushing an impressive 135 FPS, and the 1050 Ti could pump out 246. The ridiculously popular Fortnite was up next, because honestly that's what almost everyone is playing right now. The GT 1030 could handle medium settings right at that 60 FPS mark, and the 1050 Ti could handle epic settings at 58 FPS. Once again, keep in mind that you can definitely knock the settings down to get higher FPS if you're playing with a higher refresh rate monitor, and that goes for both cards. Overwatch was up next, and the GT 1030 handled medium settings again at that 60 FPS mark, and the 1050 Ti could handle epic settings, believe it or not, and even averaged an impressive 69 frames per second. Also as requested, Prey was up next, and I'm kinda just now realizing that I completely forgot about this game and I should give it a go again. The 1030 pushed out 53 FPS in 1080p low, and the 1050 Ti pushed out 74 FPS on high. And finally, the brand new Vermintide 2 is up, and I actually just uploaded an entire video benchmarking this game with a bunch of more budget graphics cards. The 1030 could only handle 1080p low, but it was still up there at 55 FPS, and the 1050 Ti could handle medium settings at 66 FPS. Well, that wraps up my comparison of the GT 1030 and GTX 1050 Ti. There's definitely a performance gap in between these two cards, but hopefully this video helped you decide if one of these two cards are good enough to hold you over until this GPU apocalypse ends. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please drop a like down below to help support my channel. Also down there is a link to zachstechturf.com so you can buy baller t-shirts like this, and I can continue to buy these budget GPUs purely for these videos. And as always, thank you for watching, and please subscribe for more Zach's Tech Turf videos.